All right, Robert.
Yes, Mr. J.
So lots of happenings again this week. Not like there's any non-happenings in the real estate market and real estate news. And what was recently announced as
Well, we had a run-up of 3 or 4 weeks from I'm going to call them federal liberals, and they would currently have a majority because of their affiliation with Jagmeet Singh. They really have a minority and they should be governing very cautiously all through this COVID time. But because of the support of this guy who's waiting for his pension to vest in February of 2025, they're able to get away with all kinds of left wing nut woke is a joke policies. And even though everybody who examines the budget carefully says you don't have enough time, and you cannot possibly spend this much money because you cannot collect as much money without blowing away all of your guidelines and recommendations on prudent fiscal policy. So it's a lie masquerading as a falsehood that's supported by everybody who is living off the subsidization of media in Canada.
in short, the
Yeah.
budget was announced.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's what you wanted. The budget was announced
Okay, and on
on
this episode
TV.
on TV and on this episode of Real Estate Chat with
John Perez.
and Robert E. We're not going to talk about the budget because everybody has heard it, watched it, seen it, read it. I'd like to hope at least, but what the budget did to the spring market, or maybe it did do, maybe it didn't do, but we're going to talk about anyway what's happening in the spring market. Robert, do you want to just jump right into this chart so that you can
Oh, we can
explain?
start there. Then we have something. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so you know what? Let's start here, and what we're starting at is what does April look like so far? Now, can we blame the budget for doing this entirely, or can we say that this is just what happens on a year-to-year basis? Robert, what do you want to say about that?
Okay. For a year and a half, we've been watching sales be 30, 40, sometimes 20% below the average for that month. And we had a little rally in the first 10 days. And so we edged up to like only 25% below average. And now we're at 29, 25, something like that percent. It's still lousy, except there's nothing for sale. And so the ratio of buyers to sellers and the houses being off the market for the first 5 days is causing there to be a seller's market in a very low buyer environment. It's a wild time for realtors, as it's mispronounced in the United States. It's a great time for sellers, and it's a very difficult time for buyers. So we're seeing again sales off, prices maintain, maybe edge up a tiny bit because this is happening all the way up the price, $2 million. Regular $1 million detached homes all over the place are being gobbled up like crazy. Anyway, so did the budget affect it? The budget dashed the expectations that interest rates were going to come down, that somehow the federal liberal woke heads were going to pull off this housing accelerator fund, subsidization, creation of new inventory, cut back on the number of non-permanent resident, but they're not. They're not even making a good sham of saying they're going to do that. So now everybody who was optimistic, we said this before, has turned, oh, not again. And it's just a matter of what's going to happen in May, June, July.
Okay, so is that a good case? So we're watching two things amongst many things that we watch. And for those of you who like and subscribe to our channel, you'll see what we're watching. We're watching here sales and prices, and you say that prices are remaining steady. In fact, there's a little bit of growth to price. So, I mean, there's stability in price. Sales, dipping below last year's level. If, I mean, you got to look at it from two sides. If rates do not go down, then
Yes.
obviously that will affect prices, that will affect consumer confidence. But the anticipation of the rates going down has brought some buyers and made them a bit excited. So let's say the rates, and they will go down at some point, right? But let's say that that gets washed into latter part of this year. Some real estate chatters might say never, but let's say it does get washed into latter. Should buyers enter knowing that, you know what, maybe the prices aren't going to spike right away because of the fact that the rates have not come down?
Okay. The real estate haters are believers in a calamity where the whole world is going to come to an end. And so they're going to wait because they think in their worldview that everything is going to collapse because it's too high now. Other people who are actually in the business and who own a house do not want prices to come down because that's their money. They just gained that money over the last 20 years. They don't want that money to go away. So if it's an uncertain time, same thing happens in the stock market. You go for the sure thing. And the surest thing is to do what you're doing now, nothing, or to buy the very best thing that you possibly can when it becomes available at a bargain. For example, the budget this week announced for sure a change in the capital gains tax, which means that if you have an investment property, instead of just adding 50% of the net profit to your income in the sale in the year when the sale is realized, you'll add 67% to your income. So that's a 50% increase in tax. That's if you have an investment property, not in your principal residence, an investment property that you decide to sell. But the closing has got to be before June the 25th. So there will be an upset because of that. And there will be some creative wrinkles that come to play, but it's a very short period of time, so it's not going to have much time for anything to take effect. But there is something that doesn't affect Joe Public, but it affects the people who it does affect enormously. Now, you didn't ask me that. You asked me what are people going to do? People are going to do whatever they're going to do. The thing to watch now is what's shown on the slide you just brought up there, is months of inventory. If buyers stay constant watching and sellers say, hey, maybe this is the last time, maybe I better bail out, then inventory will go up. And so this chart from Ron Hoth, our friend, that shows the number of months of inventory, meaning what's the inventory snapshot at the end of the month divided by the number of sales that occurred in that month, how many months of inventory it is. And you can see there's a range. If we go back to 1990, everybody says 1990 and the 90s were the worst time you ever want to experience. And look at that, 18 months of inventory. That's how many sales there were divided into the number of listings. There were lots of listings. Nothing was moving. And then more recently, we see it down around 2 plus minus, 3 to 1 sort of a thing. So right now, halfway through April, we're at about 2.5, 239 months of inventory for the current month. If that goes up towards 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then it will become more of a buyer's market. And you'll be able to talk turkey with the seller about, can you help me subsidize the first mortgage? These things, because the buyer will be able to appeal to the self-interest of the seller and say, you want to sell, right? You've been for sale for 62 days already. Right now, guy's been for sale for 6 days. He's not capitulating on anything. You say, pay me what I want, cash, or go away. So all you can do is be patient.
So it seems like I guess the buyer's market, or a dip into the buyer's market, was only perception based, if not just for a little splinter of time, because we quickly got back into a situation where sellers, correct me if I'm wrong, sellers seem to be still in control over what's happening.
Sellers are still in control. There is not enough inventory for the number of buyers for it to change the supply and demand mix that causes prices to go down. Are prices going to go down? Only depending on the mix. And the mix is measured by this months of inventory. This is a more compressed version of the same thing, courtesy of Ron Hoth. It only goes back to 07, where we had a bad time in 08, where things got up to 7 months of inventory. The rest of the time, the bad times are a little bit over 3. We saw 4 recently, and the good times are below 2. So what can we say? It might be a summer of discontent. It might be, it's not going to be another spring. Like, the spring is over. Spring is over, and all we're going to see now is whether grandma and grandpa put their house up for sale or don't. And if they just stay there for another year, then it'll stay the same as it is right now.
All right, fair enough. So here's the thing, though, Robert. Some have said that, and when I say some, I'm not making this up. This is actually the sentiment. So with the anticipated, when it was anticipated that the rates would go down as early as May, June, July, that the fall market of 2024 would supersede the spring market of
the second half was going to be big time, yes.
Now I'm talking in past tense because the sentiments have changed. Like, according to sentiments of economists, apparently from an 80% plus confidence rate, I think it was 84% confidence. Now it's about 50, 56% confidence that rates will actually go down. So for those of you commenters, looks like you're going to be right, at least this time around. Now, what will that do to the fall market, which was supposed to be the real spring market of 2024 when prices were supposed to go up and its sales activity was supposed to go up? Will we see a flat remaining year in 2024 when it comes to sales and prices?
Well, you're right. Interest rates are a factor, and our friend David Rosenberg says it's too late. He's kept rates up for too long. He's been following the Fed. Let the Canadian dollar come down. He's waited too long. Look at all this. Everything's already at 2%, not the way you're measuring it in your rear view mirror. So is the second half going to be equal to the first half? I don't think it's going to be a dead terrible. It's probably going to be equal to. So the people who are most optimistic saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to get a lot of gains. We're going to get another 5% in the first half and then 10% in the second half." No, they're going to be wrong. But that's what everybody thought on the 15th of January. So all they did was run to the front of the parade. That's all they did.
Well, there you have it. If you have any questions about the spring market that is now concluded and what's to come for the rest of 2024 and how to guide yourself and your family through a proper decision when it comes to real estate, make sure to leave a comment. Make sure you join our discussion. Thanks for watching this episode of Real Estate Chat. Take care and bye for now.